Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. It's cold outside here in central Indiana, but Purdue basketball might be heating up. The Boilermakers took down Minnesota and Northwestern in decisive fashion to open up the new year and get it started on the right foot. We'll talk about what went well for Purdue over the past week and what it can mean moving forward as Purdue is just getting started in the Big Ten gauntlet. 4 games down, 16 to go. Lots to play still. But if you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. There is a lot to talk about. We're going to be there all season long. Come join the conversation. Always feel free to send in questions there on Twitter, or you can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We will be here every week all the way through the end of basketball season and into the summertime, because there really is no off season in college sports. But Purdue gets started on the really nice foot to restart Big Ten play here. 81-61 win in the barn over Minnesota. 79-61 win over Northwestern in Mackey Arena on Sunday. The latter, a game that was not as close as that final score indicated, and the final score indicated that Purdue cruised. Purdue led that thing by 23 at halftime. Was a 20 to 30. I don't know if Purdue ever got up to 30, but a very comfortable margin for most of that second half. That first half against Minnesota was a little slow, but it's hard to ask for a better start to the new year and to really the new chapter of this season than what Purdue got here, because Purdue had some losses early on in the year, and one of those came at Penn State, a very decisive loss. Some decisive losses in there, Marquette, Texas A&M, Auburn. None of those were really, they weren't final second losses. They weren't down to the wire games. But, Purdue kind of got a fresh start here where almost all of the Big Ten already had a loss coming into this. Only 2 teams in the league don't have a loss at this point. So, Purdue looked great. Really elite for 2 halves this week. And the second half against Northwestern is pretty hard to draw conclusions from, because that was garbage time. That game was decided. And that tells you a lot about how Purdue played in the first half against an opponent that has given it troubles, really been as big of a thorn in Purdue's side as anyone in the league over the past 2 years. And Purdue steamrolled Northwestern. You've seen Braden Smith really be utilized as a scorer since that little mini Christmas break after the Auburn game. And we talked about this last week, how I think Purdue has to have him be a scoring-minded guard. That doesn't mean he's going to stop having assists, because he's going to keep having assists. That doesn't mean he's going to stop rebounding, because he's going to keep rebounding. But what I think it does mean is that Purdue absolutely has to have him be part of the equation when it comes to scoring points, because this is not a Purdue team that is overloaded with guys that are creators on the offensive end. You have some guys who can deliver when the ball is given to them, but you don't have guys who are going to go out and find baskets for you over and over again. In the first half at Minnesota, the shots just weren't going down for him, but he still took 7 shots, 8 shots in that first half. And then since then, he's been on fire. He's been terrific. In those 3 games since Christmas, Toledo, Minnesota, Northwestern, 20-plus points in all 3, had 30-plus against Toledo, over 1,000 career points now. He's been excellent. He's really versatile. For a guy his size, he's unbelievable as a 3-level scorer, because he's able to get his shot up in the mid-range so well. He is able to generate space on some of those little fadeaways he takes from like 10 to 12 feet really, really effectively. He gets to the basket really effectively, and that's something he's always done, but he's been so good at that recently. Don't take this for granted. I'm telling you, this is one of the best players in America. He is right there in the Big Ten Player of the Year mix, All-American mixes. He is unbelievable. This is special, what he is doing for Purdue. And you are going to see Purdue use him more and more and more throughout this season because he's the best you've got. He's as good as about anyone's got. Purdue is going to keep running stuff through him. It's going to be fun to watch what he does the rest of the year. Caleb Furst is giving Purdue some tremendous energy in the front court right now. He's reaching that point that you sometimes see with seniors. You don't see this all of the time, but sometimes they hit a point where you can kind of visibly see them realize that this is their last time playing basketball. You know, obviously at an organized level. You can play pickup at the Y forever. But it's pretty well documented. Caleb Furst is going to medical school after this. It's not like he's going to be pursuing an overseas professional career or anything like that. This is it for him. It has not always been the perfect career that maybe you'd hoped for when a top 50-ish recruit committed to Purdue, an Indiana Mr. Basketball committed to Purdue. He's had some ups and downs. It's been a tricky hand dealt to him with Zach Edey taking up the bandwidth that he did. The minutes were tricky for Caleb Furst. The touches simply were not there. He's not going to be a big scorer for Purdue. You know, you see the inconsistency around the basket sometimes. It can be frustrating. You know, you get the ball to him in a good spot and he doesn't always convert. He's not a destination post scorer. But what you're seeing him do right now, he's giving you some garbage baskets here and there, just around the rim. He's getting fouled and he's making free throws at a decent enough clip. He's playing great defense. He's getting rebounded. He's doing everything you could ask for right now, and that's what Purdue needs. Purdue needs guys who complement your big three. You have a really, really good trio leading the way on this team. You don't need tons of other guys to come in and be alphas out there, to demand a ton of shots, to demand a ton of action run for them. You need guys who can make those three better, and Caleb Furst is doing that right now. He's far from perfect, and that's okay. He's not going to be perfect. He's a flawed player. Everyone on this team is to a degree. Almost everyone in college basketball is. But he can make this team notably better. And right now you're seeing a spot where he is really establishing himself in that Purdue front court as someone who needs minutes. He is doing what, early on Will Berg wasn't able to do when he was getting a few minutes here and there. He's doing what Raleigh Burgess hasn't been able to do. And he's doing what Camden Heide hasn't largely been able to do either. It's been a really, really nice run from Caleb Furst here. And, while it's not been some storybook career for him, it could be a really, really nice ending for a guy who very well might go down as the winningest player in Purdue history. And while he hasn't been the most impactful player on any of those teams, there's something to be said for that and some kudos to be given there. I really liked what I saw from Purdue's freshman guards this week. And it feels like just yesterday that we were talking about freshman guards and it was Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. And now it's C.J. Cox and Jakari Harris. C.J. Cox moved into that starting lineup alongside Caleb Furst a couple games back. And he's been doing a lot of good for Purdue. He's got some scoring juice to him. You can see it. He hits this fadeaway three on an out-of-bounds play against Northwestern at the end of the shot clock. At least I think it was an out-of-bounds play. Against Alabama, he has that 3 threes in 3 possessions little series. He's got some of that. I don't want to be too, hyperbolic and say he's got some of the dog in him, but That's kind of what he has. You can see that scoring toughness to him, the shot-making ability. He's in a little bit of a tough spot because, as I said with Caleb Furst, Purdue has 3 guys who are your alphas. Purdue has 3 guys that you're running stuff for. You don't have that all the way down your lineup. You're not running stuff for your beyond tertiary scorers. And that's kind of where CJ Cox is right now. I think in due time, it could be fun to see what he turns into as a scorer because there are some really intriguing things there. But he's giving you effort outside of scoring. He's really trying on defense. You can see the effort there. He's rebounding at a great clip for a freshman guard who's not particularly big. The effort there, very evident, very easy to see. He led Purdue with 8 rebounds in that Northwestern game. You'd have made some really nice money if you bet him to lead Purdue in rebounding in any game this season. He's given Purdue a lot of good right now. And on the flip side of that freshman guard equation, Jakari Harris is a different player than CJ Cox. His struggles from 3 have been well documented. He did get one to go down against Minnesota on a nice little ball reversal there. And he had one that went in, didn't count because it was after a foul against Northwestern. But it was one of those that he didn't know wouldn't count when he shot it. Wasn't like that, guy launches it after a whistle. I think he shot that in rhythm thinking it was going to count. Not that it matters, but it is good to see that ball go through the hoop for him. He did some really good things initiating offense. He got the ball in transition and just went a couple of times. Being aggressive, pushing that ball down the court. That was impressive to see. That shows you a ball handling ability that's really welcomed. I don't know that he's a primary ball handler. He's not a true point guard by any means, but he certainly looks equipped to be an impactful secondary ball handler. And there's something to be said for that. You need guys like that. Not everybody can be a point guard, but you have to have guys capable of handling the ball out there. I don't know that he's ever going to be your main scoring threat in the backcourt, but you saw him attack off the bounce a time or two against Northwestern, even in the half court. And that was nice to see. If he can continue finding ways to be crafty and, maybe develop a floater game, maybe develop a mid-range game, find a way, keep improving that 3-point percentage, get up, flirt with that 35% mark where it's worthwhile to have you out there shooting them. That'd be a really nice weapon to have because from a defensive and a physicality standpoint, he's ready. He's ready to compete at that level. He's very ready to do that. He's not an elite defender at this point, but it's very reasonable to think that he can become a really good defender for Purdue. And when you start adding these things up, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like. Both these guys, they can give you some good stuff now, and they're really encouraging for the future. They've each encountered some rough patches as true freshmen, and they still will. It's not all going to be smooth sailing the rest of this season, but they do not look significantly far behind as freshmen at this point. And that's what I think you really, really like to see right now. Some of it's Caleb Furst giving you really good impact. Some of it is the team playing together more and getting more comfortable with one another. Certainly some of it is the opponents not being as good as the SEC teams and Marquette that Purdue faced, but this team looks like it's coming together defensively. I say that noting that Minnesota is legitimately terrible. I feel for Ben Johnson because that roster got pillaged after last year. That is the dark side of NIL and the transfer portal coming to fruition. Cam Christie goes to the NBA. Different situation altogether, but, like that Talon Cooper, Pharrell Payne, Elijah Hawkins, I think there was another guy or two that all bailed to the portal. And this is just a rough team. I mean, this is This is one of the worst Big Ten teams since Eddie Jordan got fired at Rutgers. I mean, it's that bad. But Purdue did a great job on Dawson Garcia. He still got his 20 points, but you can live with it on how inefficient he was and how hard he had to work for those. Caleb Furst did a great job on him. And it was funny looking at that matchup coming into the game because those two would have played at Mohegan Sun when Caleb Furst was a freshman starting that game due to Mason Gillis's suspension. And Dawson Garcia was at UNC, and he had 20-plus points in that game for UNC. And like a month or two later, he left the team. Those two have an interesting past playing against one another. But, Minnesota got some garbage points around the basket, but Purdue did a pretty good job on them defensively because Minnesota didn't get points doing what it wanted on offense for the most part. And that's what you want. And against Northwestern, Purdue did a wonderful job shutting down Brooks Barnheiser and Nick Martinelli. That's a really legit duo in a program that's not really used to having two 20-point scorers. They present some tricky matchup dynamics. They're tall, they're long, they can handle the ball. They're tough to match up with. But Purdue did a really nice job at forcing the ball out of their hands, forcing them into tough shots, not letting them get what they wanted. Purdue was very willing to let everyone else on Northwestern's roster and beat Purdue, but that roster isn't capable of it. It was a really well-executed game plan by Purdue, and Purdue brought the energy in that game because I tweeted this. Northwestern relies on out-efforting you, out-hustling you, because there is a very real limitation to the talent you can acquire at Northwestern. It just is what it is. That's part of being an elite of the elite academic school. When Purdue out-hustles Northwestern and out-efforts Northwestern, it's almost impossible to lose. It really is, because Purdue simply has a better roster. It has a deeper roster. And Purdue executed this game plan well. It brought all the energy, and you saw the result. It wasn't a super close game. Look, there are still limitations to what Purdue has on the defensive end. Rebounding is still going to get testy against your taller opponents. You don't have that elite shutdown perimeter defender to put on an opponent's best guard and say, go get him. But this is a situation where the sum can be greater than the individual parts. And that's kind of what Purdue's pushing towards here. I think you really have to like what you're seeing from Purdue so far. Purdue gets another week here. It never stops coming during Big Ten season. You got 9 weeks to go. You're going to see some really talented players this week. Thursday, Purdue goes to Rutgers for a 6 p.m. tip-off. That trend is awful. I don't care. I don't care that the game tips off at 6 p.m. I'll be home. I can watch it. For fans on Central Time, it's certainly not ideal. Anyone west of that, it's a mess. It's all about the almighty television dollar. It's not great for in-person attendance either. I mean, for Purdue, it's probably not the worst thing. I mean, it's a 6 p.m. tip at the Rack, which is kind of a place that can get squirrely on you. Although, as I'm recording this, Rutgers is down 9 at half at home to Wisconsin. I watched like the first 10 minutes and decided to go record this because it didn't look like it was going to be all that close. If New Jersey traffic is as bad as I hear it is, which I have no idea if it is or not, it could get tough for fans to attend. And you kind of welcome that. The spring semester doesn't look like it'll have begun yet. It's kind of that time of year where you look at academic calendars. There's a little winter session on Rutgers' academic calendar. I have no idea what that is, no idea what that consists of. But long story short, Rutgers may not have students there. It certainly didn't sound like there were students there for this Wisconsin game when I was watching it before recording this. You'll take it. I mean, you'll take that. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper are tremendous prospects. Both are considered to be top 5 picks. Recording this again before the game against Wisconsin goes final. Harper leads the Big Ten, over 22 points a game. He missed the Indiana game with an illness. Sounds like he just got back practicing on Monday morning of this week. So we'll see, if he's 100% for this Purdue game. Good rebounder, good facilitator, a good scorer from all around. He's a really talented player. He's got a triple-double on his resume this year. He is excellent. Very, very good player. Ace Bailey, 6'10" wing guy that's impossible to match up with. He's a scorer, kind of, your scorer first, scorer second, scorer third kind of guy. He can be up and down. That comes with the territory there. But this is kind of like what Purdue saw with Northwestern. If you can limit those two, you've probably limited Rutgers. That's not to say that, random guy off the bench can't beat you, because I watched Montez Mathis hit like 6 threes on Purdue at the rack one year, but shut down their stars and see where it takes you. It's very unlike your traditional Steve Peichel Rutgers team. It's not very good on defense. Like, defensive efficiency on KenPom, not great. Gave up 43 in the first half to Wisconsin, who does look like it can score. Losses to Kennesaw State and Princeton, 33% from three, not great. Rutgers has not been a great shooting team. Rutgers takes care of the basketball pretty well. It's kind of that thing. This doesn't look like a great team. It's not a great team, but it's got a couple of elite prospects that are capable of exploding on you. And you have to avoid that from happening. This is a very winnable road game. If you start 2-1 on the road, it'd be really significant. You get Nebraska at home on Sunday. Again, student section watch. I don't know if it's a full paint crew or not. Classes start on Monday. I don't know how they handle those tickets these days. Bryce Williams, another really good player. He was at Nebraska last year, scoring 18 a game, a long guy on the perimeter. He's almost a 50-40-90 guy, 6'7" wing. That's a tough matchup for anyone. How Purdue handles him, you got Jawan Gary. He's been around a while. Connor Essegian from Fort Wayne can really shoot it. Good defensive team. That's a really good defensive team Nebraska has. I remember a time where it looked like Fred Hoiberg might be dead in the water there, and boy, has he responded really well. They're doing some really good stuff. I like what I'm seeing there. Pretty thin resume, though. Nice home wins over Indiana and UCLA. A big road win at Creighton. Blowout loss to Michigan State. Neutral loss to St. Mary's. So, not entirely sure of what to make there. But if you're Purdue, you just have to keep stacking wins where you can. The more difficult portion of the Big Ten schedule lies down the road. Take as many wins on the front end as you can get. If you look ahead at the Big Ten here, everything is on the table. Illinois had a really impressive win over Oregon this week and is a very talented roster. That's a really talented team. Doesn't always guarantee anything. Michigan looks like a threat. A couple of 7-footers there. That tricky matchup. That's a team that is going to be difficult to match up with. Michigan State keeps on winning. I'm not sold on them, but we'll see. I don't know, unless Illinois really takes off, I don't know that there's a national title contender in this league. So win games, see where it takes you. Get off to a good start and play from ahead in this league. It'd go a long way for you. The new year is here, and there's no better time to make sure your insurance coverages are up to date. With inflation causing so much uncertainty in the world, you need to be certain that if worst comes to worst, you are taken care of. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, I'm here to help. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me, jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com, and we'll protect you from life's everyday risk. Had a good question here, a fun one, before we close with a final thought. If you had to make a prediction, where does Braden Smith go down in the ranks of all-time Purdue guards when he's done playing at Purdue? We're going to operate under the assumption here that he plays 4 seasons at Purdue. I know there's an appeal for 5 years everywhere, all sorts of stuff. We'll see. This is going to operate that he comes back for a senior season, and then that's it. It's almost impossible to compare him to Rick Mount, who played in the late 1960s. A very different game then, a very different style of basketball. Rick Mount was a scoring first, scoring second, scoring third type of guard, whereas Braden Smith is a true all-around point guard. Hard to compare that. E'Twaun Moore and Troy Lewis were over 2,000 points at Purdue. Had Carson Edwards come back for a fourth year, he would have left Purdue as the all-time leading scorer, almost for sure. Smith's impact is so much more than scoring, though. And he's almost certain. He's at over 1,000 points now. He's going to push past the 1,500 point mark. Probably flirt with 2,000. Maybe he'll get there, maybe not. He's on pace to take the career assists lead by the end of this season. He's already in second right now. He rebounds tremendously well for a guard. He gets steals well for a guy who can't afford to be in foul trouble. So he has to be cautious, but he takes the ball away well. There's never been a guy like this at Purdue, not even remotely. There's a very real part of this conversation that's determined by what happens in the big picture as well. I mean, Braden Smith has won 2 Big Ten titles and made a Final Four already. What more can he add on to there? Can he win another Big Ten? Can he win 2 more? Can he go 4 for 4? What happens in the NCAA tournament? Because let's face it, I mean, if he were to get Purdue to another Final Four, that's it. It's over at that point. But even without that, even without the team stuff, he's one of the best players Purdue's ever seen, guard or not. He is a tremendous player. I expect that he's going to get an All-American spot probably this year, and his jersey will go up in the rafters at Mackey Arena forever. I wanted to close with a thought I had just from talking with a buddy this week. It kind of came to mind, and college basketball is more of a niche sport than anyone wants to really acknowledge. It's not like it's the behemoth that here in Indiana sometimes feels like, where it's a really passionate state about college basketball. You have that with Kansas and Kentucky, but for the most part, college basketball is on the back burner to football at a lot of places. And, with the 12-team college football playoff being here, it really feels like there has been less conversation than ever before about college basketball to this point. And it's not hard to identify why. I personally have probably watched less college basketball to this point than I ever have before. But, this 12-team playoff is really captivating. And that, December 21st, that Saturday before Christmas, had some pretty good basketball matchups, but it's completely overshadowed by the college football playoff first round. That December 14th was a huge day with a ton of great games, but that's a time when, family Christmases get started and things like that. And, I'm not the biggest fan of the 12-team playoff and, the format or how it changes the sport, but boy, it's a tremendous viewing product for fans. It's keeping folks engaged, and it's going to have a huge voice this week and then the following week. And then you're almost to February, and that's the Super Bowl. And, you kind of see very quickly how at times it feels like college basketball only gets the month March to really flex its muscles. And that's a bummer, because there's a lot of good stuff happening in college basketball, but it's just part of it. It's a football dominant society we live in, and college basketball isn't going to be a casualty by any means, but it certainly feels the effect of all of this. That's all I've got for today. We'll be back here, probably record next Monday night, episode in your feed next Tuesday after Purdue takes on Rutgers and Nebraska. We'll see if Purdue can stay hot. 4-1, 5-1. Be a really good spot to be in Big Ten play for Purdue. We'll see if it can get there. Follow the show on Twitter @BoilersBeyond and send in some questions. We'll have a big mailbag next week. Send them in. BoilersandBeyondPod@gmail.com or BoilersBeyond on Twitter. Give the show a subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until next week, guys, enjoy these couple of games and take care.